This episode is brought to you by the members of the You Run Podcast Network. All of their shows and our own can be found at yourunpodcast.com, along with links to our socials and to our shop. So please head over to yourunpodcast.com today and find your next podcast experience. We are the home of entertainment.
I was more of a cat person.
Are you gay?
You want to die tonight?
The dad jokes you tell sets the scene. I hang on every word lost in the screen. Your passion for fear is contagious enough. You make me believe in Mark's overblown roundups. You run podcasts or a movie review, unveiling facts and playing games too. Your words paint pictures of darkness and dread, leaving me grinning long after I fled.
Joe.
Yeah.
I was hoping for the rest of it then.
Yeah, where it goes do. Hello and welcome to the You Run Podcast Horror Movie Review. My name is Scott.
My name is Mark.
And this is your interactive horror movie review show where you pick the movies and we tell you our thoughts on them. You can follow us at You Run Podcast on all social media, and that's how you can get involved in the show in things like voicemails and interactive features and games and all kinds of other cool stuff. Also, you can go to our website, yourunpodcast.com, which has got links to all of our stuff that you'll ever need. If you are on Instagram, you need to follow Mark. He's at Reviews from the Crypt or at VHS from the Crypt. And I'm sure you're all aware very quickly that I am rattling through this intro because we've got a very, very interesting episode today. So I'm going to do this bit quick so we can just get rid of it and move on. If you've never listened before, we'll give you a brief synopsis of the movie, followed by our thoughts and an in-depth review. On this episode, it is going to be a little bit more spoiler. It's going to have less spoiler. It's spoiler-free. Why can't I even speak?
You was going to say spoiler heavy then for a moment, weren't you?
Yeah. It's going to be a lot more spoiler-free than normal because the movie we're covering today isn't even out yet. We are in remakes month, but yeah, we got the opportunity to do this, and both me and Mark agreed that this would be a super cool episode. And yeah, fuck remakes week, remakes month. We can do that next week. So yeah,
yes,
we're looking at something far more interesting today. Imagine being the world's biggest fuckboy and having a condom break. And instead of behaving like an adult and having a conversation with the lady, you choose to ignore it. Well, that's what position fuckboy Chris finds himself with Alessa. And she tells him she's pregnant. After a little bit more of fuckboyery, he decides to go with her to visit her estranged father, Maddox. Now, this is not an ordinary pregnancy. And this episode is going to be wild if you know nothing about this movie. This movie stars Lavera Julian Curtis and the iconic horror legend Bill Mosley. Today we bring you our review of Director Joe Lam's directorial debut, feature-length debut, The Fetus.
We're talking about engaging in sex acts.
But before we do that, there is something I do want to address. Last week, I had a bit of a fall. And
the fact that you even have to say it is, look, I've had a fall. Look, we all know, guys, it was coming. It was going to happen eventually, but Scott has reached the age where he's now having falls.
yeah, anybody who follows us on Instagram or any other social media kind of knows what happened. But for those of you who are just listeners, I had a tumble. So I wasn't very well over the weekend.
I'm sorry, I'm trying not to laugh, but I've been ripping you for like 2 weeks now, and I feel like an arsehole because I know so many people have like reached out to you sending well wishes and hope you get well soon, and the whole time you've just had me on the other line being like, bah.
I got up to go and tend to one of my children who was also sick. When I got into the bathroom, everything just went a bit flashy. And I took a tumble, hitting the toilet with my hip and the radiator with my ear, rendering myself fully unconscious. I think the term is I got knocked the fuck out. I came to with Lisa there saying, "Don't worry about the blood, an ambulance is on its way." And I'm going, "What blood? Why am I on the floor?" But I am on the mend now. For those of you who did send well wishes and who asked me exactly what happened, that's kind of the gist of it. And I've brought some photographs to share for Mark's entertainment and all of yours. So this is what I done to my ear.
Wow. I mean, that's gnarly, dude. It is bad. It is bad, but like, I wouldn't be a true friend if I didn't take the piss out of you for it.
Yeah, it was like flapping in the wind, which is why me and Mark took a break from recording because I couldn't wear headphones.
No.
And in the process, I had to have my hip realigned where I hit my hip so hard. There was no bruising when they done this. After they realigned it, it looks like that.
Oh, dude, it looks like you've been in a car crash. That's so brutal.
Honestly, the ear hurt. It was lots of stitches. It was very painful. The hip, oh my God. Like, I've never felt pain like having that put back into place. So they brought my knee up to my chest and kind of gently opened my legs. And in that process, there was a pop noise. Like, I nearly shit myself. I weed a little bit. I jumped about 8 foot off the bed. There was a nurse holding my shoulders to keep me still, and I sent her about 18 foot across the room as I leapt my big fat ass up. Never felt pain like it. And it's all down to the fact that I was dehydrated. So my message to everyone is stay hydrated.
Yeah, man, definitely. Drink that high quality H2O.
Yeah.
Good for the body.
Yeah, but after our break, a whole week and a bit away from recording, we are back. Mega
Hospital.
I know I joke, and I know I've been ribbing you unconditionally for the past couple of weeks, but I am glad you are safe and well. It was a daunting task to think that I might have to do this show on my own, but you have a carer now, which is good.
Yeah.
You know, so we know that if anything happens in the future, you have care and you have guidance.
I've got one of those panic,
which is good.
One of those panic buttons. If I fall, I just push it, lay on the floor and push it.
Like when you go to those old people's home and they have like the red cord light switch and the white cord light switch. I remember going to a grandparents' houses when I was younger, and you always used to go in the bathroom and like pull the wrong cord, should send like the alarm off, and they'd have to ring the warden and be like, "No, it's okay. My dear grandson just pulled the cord." Have you had one of those installed after your accident?
Maybe I need to.
I think you might.
Anyway, today we are reviewing an independent horror movie. And for anyone who wonders, we treat independent horror exactly the same as we treat all the big boys. As far as we're concerned, if you make an independent horror and you go for the full cinematic release, you get the full review treatment the same as everybody else.
Yes.
The first thing I want to say is the casting for this is fucking superb. The casting of Bill Mosley, Lauren Lavera, and Julian Curtis?
Julian Curtis, yes, I believe.
All fabulous.
Yeah, and it's weird really as well, because not only are they all fantastic in their own right, but collectively as a trio, they just seem to gel so well together. Like the dynamic between the three of them just so naturally flows and is so authentic that it's hard not to find yourself invested with amongst these characters. I think the casting process has done exceptionally well here.
Yeah, it really is. We kick off with a sex scene, and I'm gonna be that guy. I never thought I'd see a Lauren Lavera sex scene, but I did.
Oh, full boobs.
I was very impressed. I
don't want to be that creepy guy and be like, "Oh my God, it's Lauren Lavera boobs." But when you see like a Terrifier movie and she's never done nudity in that, to see it here, you're like, surely she would be naked in a Terrifier movie of something like this. But yeah, no, fast 30 seconds, full naked Laura Laverne. Great.
Yeah,
great
and
stuff.
I sort of went,
stuff.
holy shit. Yeah, like we're off to a flyer. After this, we get to really meet Alyssa, who's Lauren Lavera's character, and Chris. Oh man, Chris.
Yeah, he's the worst.
Everybody hates Chris.
He
they did
by far the most hated character I've ever come across in a horror movie. From his opening gambit with his girlfriend where they've had sex, the condom breaks, and he just slings it in a bin and doesn't say anything. I'm like, oh, you're a prick. And like,
do you know what the thing is about him as well? Like, because I don't think it's like he hasn't done anything that's so necessarily like awful. Like, he is an awful person, but like what I'm saying is the reason why I found him so distasteful is because I know people like this. I know people in the real world that are relatable, and I think instead of just making him an all-out villain, just the basic relatable situations that this kid puts himself in. It's like, oh, I have friends like you, and they are just as much of an asshole as you are. And as much as they've told me stories about stuff like this in the pub, actually seeing it play out really makes me like hate some of my friends' situations like this.
Yeah, it's really bad. So he gets her pregnant. That's the gist of it. And when she comes back, because the nurse is like, well, you've had unprotected sex. She's like, no, I haven't. She's like, well, you have because you're pregnant. And also, it looks like you had unprotected sex last night as well. So Alyssa comes back, like storms in Chris's house while he's scrolling Tinder. He's like swiping right. And she's like, how could you not tell me? And storms into the bathroom where she finds the broken condom. And this is where we get this kind of a shift. And she's like, my dad always told me if I ever get pregnant, it's not going to be normal. We need to go and see my dad. And Chris is like, yeah, like, I'm not ready for that. Can I get you an Uber? And I'm like, oh, you prick.
He's such a fuckboy, isn't he? Like, the responsibility, he just wants to wash his hands of it. It's like, I'm not doing that. I'm not ready to meet your dad. But hey, just get out of my house. Let me call you a cab.
Yeah, I can get you an Uber. Also, because I kind of knew this happened, I bought you the morning after pill just in case. Like, I've covered it. We're cool. And he's like, he's so blasé about it, and then really pissed off when she throws the morning after pill in the toilet. He's like, that cost me $50. Like, the fuck?
I can't say I've ever found myself in this situation.
No, to be fair, I always use protect. Well, I don't now because I'm married, but before that, I always use protection.
One time I used saran wrap. I didn't have any condoms and nothing like that.
But yes, safe sex is important, and that's one of the topics of this. And the main topic of this movie is an unwanted pregnancy and how there are different opinions and who should have a say in whether that baby stays alive. That's the kind of underlying tone throughout this. But Joe Lam takes it in a very different place to a drama discussing the rights and wrongs of abortion. And we go in a wild direction. So after a bit of arguing, Chris agrees to take Lauren Lavera to meet her dad, Maddox, who's played by Bill Mosley. And he's a legend. They stop en route at the gas station. I don't know what to say. So she goes into the bathroom and there is a tentacle that comes out of her dress and attacks and feasts on the blood of a woman. Now, I know this is probably not what should have gone through my head, but what went through my head was, is she wearing underwear or did the tentacle like push the knickers to one side to come out? Like, that's where my head went. I was like, how did he get out? Or did he just burst a hole through the underwear?
Oh, that's brilliant. I didn't even think about that.
See, I did. I logically went, how did it get out? There's underwear there. Did it burst a hole through them? Is there no underwear?
I mean, you're under the assumption that she's actually wearing underwear at this point.
Well, exactly that. I love the creature. I think the creature's really cool, really unique. And it is the first time I've ever seen a creature come out of a vagina and then return back to the vagina after it's attacked someone.
This is such a weird thing to have to discuss. It really is.
It is.
Wow. What a hole.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's a cool concept. Let's be honest. It is a cool concept. I don't think there's anything too original about it, but I do find the idea intriguing in a way. And I think the execution and elements like this in the gas station and stuff like that are subtle enough where it doesn't. Because I think when you do a movie like this, it's a very, very fine line to balance, such as like movies like Teeth and things like that. Like it's got to be handled not necessarily sensitively, because it's horror. You don't need to handle movies like this sensitively. But I think like when you're dealing with a subject matter such as this, I think that you can cross that line into trauma. It can very easily fall into the stupidity of trauma movies very easily if you're not careful. And I think the slow injection of the reveal is done quite well to the point where it builds up curiosity on a level where you want more and you want to see more and you're curious to know where this story is going. So I do like this scene a lot in the garage.
Yeah, and I like this build up because like she does that. And then she comes out and she's like, should we go? And she's like, I was just a bit flustered. I saw a snake in the toilet. And then you hear the woman scream, who's obviously found the other woman. And he's like, oh, she must have seen the snake too. And Alyssa like almost pushes him out the door like, yep, okay, let's go. Let's get in the car. Her dad, Maddox, is, I'm going to say, he's a fucking weirdo. So on the way there, she's like, look, my dad's a bit eccentric. He's got a bit of PTSD. Like, he won't really talk to us until I feed him. So as soon as we get there, I have to feed him. And then after that, we can discuss things. And I was like, oh, that's a bit odd. And they rock up and Bill Mosley comes out and greets them with a shotgun. I was like, yeah, great. Love that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't quite understand this whole traditionality of, yes, I have to go in and be a mother replacement figure for my father and feed him and cook for him and clean for him. And like, I don't get it. I don't get the message or the point behind this.
They do explain it. It's to do with his PTSD, and it's something that like he needs that to adjust to the situation and new people and just kind of settle into that environment. He's used to being on his own, and he needs like a meal to bring him out of it. They do explain it.
Yeah, it's just weird when you're dealing with a situation like this, such as pregnancy and motherhood and relationship dynamics, to then have her fall into that housewife, house cook for her father. I just thought there'd be more of a bigger meaning to it than what there was. I mean, then maybe there is. You know, this is a new release again, as always with new releases. I've only seen it once. Maybe I missed something. Maybe there were elements there to explain this dynamic, but to me, it just didn't come across very well. And I was like, I don't get why she has to do this in order to be introduced to the household. And she always says, every time I go and visit my father, I have to cook for him immediately as soon as I get there, and basically be mother hen, even though she hasn't seen him in years and years and years. It was wild, and I was expecting something more to develop from it.
It's quite a good concept.
I just didn't pick up on it.
Maybe like when we're old, we can introduce that with our children when they come visit. I won't talk to you till you fed me. I'll have a stew, please.
Well, if they cook like my wife, then maybe not. Jokes.
The dynamic between Chris and Maddox, I find so funny. So Chris is
seen around
in
the dinner table.
Before we get to that, the bit where she's cooking and they're plonked alone together, and Chris is like, "It's a really nice home," and he says nothing. And he's like, "Yeah, the drive up here was quite long. Have you lived here long?" And he says nothing. And this goes on for ages, and I'm dying inside, going, "Oh, you're a dick," but I actually feel sorry for you because he is making you suffer so bad.
I'm going to be this dad. This is how I'm. Do you know what the biggest inspiration for me is in life? Do you remember in Bad Boys 2?
Yes.
Where like Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, and he comes to pick up Martin Lawrence's daughter for the date, and they both act real drunk. He's like, "Yeah, I pop a cat." Greatest scene ever, Bad Boys 2. I love it. And every time I see it, I'm like, I'm going to do that one day. And I will do that one day.
Yeah, I am going to be the dad who answers the door in a white t-shirt covered in blood holding a meat cleaver. Can I help you? That's going to be me.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. Brilliant.
And I like it in this. It's done really well. And the thing is, like, as soon as he eats, he goes from being this like stonewall, not speaking to, hi, nice to meet you. And they're having this discussion. And we know we have lots of people who love cats. Maddox does not like cats because Chris goes, I'm more of a cat person. To which Maddox's response is, are you
gay? He sounds like me.
I love so much how many people have who listen to this show who, when we spoke about cats last week, messaged me. Oh, you cat hate. Fuck you with your cat hate. And then I watched this, I was like, everyone hates cats.
Yeah, I was speaking to Beck. Beck messaged me. She's like, oh, yeah, you're fucking coming at cats again. And then I had to make the ultimate confession. I know I spoke to you and Heather about it in the group chat not so long back, but I have actually now become a hypocrite as I have slightly adopted a cat. Not through choice. I have found a white cat that's now found residence at my house. I've called it Binks. I don't know if it's a boy or a girl, but it comes, it eats, it says hello, and it leaves. I don't know who it belongs to, but we've become quite friendly. We're on first name basis, and I'm adjusting to it, and I'm sort of accepting the situation for what it is. So who knows? Couple of months, maybe I might be a cat guy. Maybe I might get a cat. Maybe I might get 2 cats. Maybe I might leave my wife and just be a cat man. Who knows?
You've changed, man. You've changed. From here, things take a dramatic turn really quick. So after dinner, Alessa's like, I'm going to go and clean up. And she has another moment where she has a funny turn. And Maddox just turns fully on Chris. Like, he's like, we need to get that baby out of her. And punches him out. I'm like, okay. And then he chloroforms his daughter. And he's like,
yes,
she needs to feed. And like he drags her to the side of the road, and Chris is trying to. He's like, no, just watch and wait. And what we get is a truck or a car pull up, a guy get out, and as he walks to the downed Alessa, the only thing that went through my head, and I messaged you at the time, was,
"Get over here!"
Yeah.
From the vagina. It's vagina scorpion, and honestly, it's fucking brilliant. I laugh so hard. I'm like, that is arguably the most inventive kill I've ever seen in a horror movie. I've never seen anything like it. It's so good. I laughed so hard, and I was like, that's so cool. I'm never going to see another film when a tentacle comes out of a vagina and rips someone's throat out. That's a one-off. That's unique.
Do you think that's it? That's a one and done situation.
I've never seen it before. I'd like to see it again. Like, put this character in the next Mortal Kombat movie, and I'm 100% in.
This is a fatality.
Yeah. After this, and after she has fed, so the fetus tentacle feeds on the man, and then they lock Alessa in the basement, and Maddox is like, we need to go and catch the neighbors.
This was really cool. I love this scene.
I
think this was actually one of my favorite scenes in the movie, to be honest with you. It's just a bumbling effort to try and kidnap the neighbors was just fucking so perfectly executed.
I'm going to knock on the door, and then you're going to bonk him. And he's like, what do you mean I'm going to bonk him? What am I going to bonk? I'm going to bonk him? What? Knock him out? Like, it's so funny.
It is good, this.
And neither of them have a fucking clue. Like, Maddox is meant to be like this trained vet, and you can tell like he could probably have done this on his own, but he's still trying to put Chris through his paces to like, if you're good enough for my daughter, you're going to kidnap the neighbors with me. It's weird.
Yeah, it's almost like he's trying to say, this is what you need to do to step up to look after her. And it's like, it just goes horribly wrong.
Like, we've all met parents. So what was it like when you met your wife's parents? Was it as awkward as this, or was that kind of chill?
It was all right. It was all right. I mean, I don't know. It was probably more awkward than I remember it being. But I've been with my wife for like 15 years now, so I met her very early on when we were younger. So for me, I probably thought I was a lot cooler than I actually was in the situation. Looking back at it now as an adult, I was probably a right dickhead, thinking I was being real suave and smooth and, oh, hello there, missus. And then in hindsight, no, you bellend. If someone walked into my house probably speaking to me the way that I did back then, I would slap them.
Yeah, so
because you're trying to do that thing to over impress, aren't you? You're being extra polite and you're being extra nice. And she probably sat there thinking, what a dickhead.
Yeah, and when I met Lisa's family, so me and Lisa met and started dating just before Christmas a decade and a bit ago. And Lisa's like, why don't she's like, what are you doing Christmas Day? I'm like, not a lot, to be honest. She's like, why don't you come down and see us for the day? And I was like, yeah, okay. So I went and saw Kane in the morning because me and my wife had not long, well, I say not long, we'd been split up about a year. So I saw Kane Christmas Day morning. Then I drove down to a random house I'd never been before and walked in and met all of Lisa's family and extended family in one hit. And on it, everyone bought me a gift. Everyone had Christmas
and you
cards.
Came empty-handed.
I brought a gatto. That's how prepared I was.
Yeah, you see, do you know, I watch like romantic comedies and stuff, and I see these instances where it's like, I'll meet the fuckers, and you go and meet the parents and things. I've never had that sort of traditional kind of meet cute kind of thing where you, oh, come and meet the parents, and you walk in, you bring great gifts, and you have that whole awkward interaction thing. No, like mine, I was fairly young, and it was all just teen bullshit when I was younger. That sounds daunting as fuck to actually do it like they do in the movies.
Yeah, like it was okay. Everyone was really friendly. Now a decade on, like it means nothing now. But yeah, at the time I was like, I walked in and Lisa's like, there are a few more people here than I said, and like walked into like this living room / dining room, and it's fucking packed like shoulder to shoulder with that 40 people. I'm like, oh fuck. Hello. And then like everyone's like, how did you meet Lisa? Oh, how long have you been dating? What do you do for a living? And I had that conversation like 30 times.
That's quite cool. I like that though. That's cool. Like that's a story, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Like, have you got a father-in-law?
Yeah, kind of. I have got a father-in-law, but they're split up. I didn't meet him till much later because he lives abroad. So I met him like.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. That's why you go on holiday and stuff. You get on really well with him now, which is cool. I don't have a father-in-law. Like my wife's dad died when she was similar age to me when I lost my father. So I just have my mother and a mother-in-law now. Can you imagine how unbearable that is to have not only a mother, but then have like an actual mother that's not your mother and no male counterpart to balance that situation out? So like I'm the man of both households in my current dynamic. The level of pressure is unbearable sometimes.
That in itself is daunting. Anyway,
oh mate, it's terrifying.
We're getting incredibly sidetracked.
Did you bring condoms?
So we're going to get back to this movie, and I'm going to be honest with everyone. Like, we're not going to give all of this away because we want you to go and watch this and experience it. So I'm going to give you a couple of snippets of what happens after we get the full-on Mortal Kombat vagina scorpion moment, but I'm not going to give you a lot. So from here, we meet a demon, and a demon that wants the fetus that is in Alessa. We find out that there are people who have allegiances to the demon, and everyone has their own motivations for this fetus. This movie goes from this point, goes on a very wild ass path. Some of you will have seen some of the stills with Lauren Lavera with her full prosthetics on. And Lauren Lavera as a demon, saying it now, still hot, even as a demon, still hot. Yeah. This movie's really cool, and I want you to go and watch it. And because of that, we're actually going to call the review there, which is unlike us. And I want to keep talking. Like, I want to talk through like what happens. I want to talk about Severed Arms, and I want to talk about the director's cameo. Like, Joe Lam's cameo in this is like, oh fuck, it's the director.
Yep.
And it's really cool. But we're not going to. Instead, we're going to take a break. Cool with that?
Yeah, definitely, man. I think that's a good place to wrap. Like you say, it's a new movie. People want to have the opportunity to see it. We've had a very early screening. For us to divulge all the spoilers would be unfair because we know we have a dedicated fan base who listen regardless of seeing the movie. So I think it's only right that we give people the opportunity to watch the movie. I think we've gone through enough that will make people want to see it without diving too much into spoilers.
Yeah, I agree. So let's take a break.
I do. I don't know that anyone else does.
I say something that comes across from the movie.
I don't always remember what you're quoting from the movie.
Me neither.
But there's been a couple times where I've gotten to what you were going to say ahead of you, so that's good.
The Dewey Pod Monster podcast is something truly unique. Hosted by John and Sean, this show brings you everything you could possibly want about consumption, whether that's craft beers, TV, film, video games, or just general banter. These guys nail it every single week.
Yes, couldn't have ninjas, throwing stars, headbutts, ear claps, nunchucks. The word ninja and kids stuff.
Well, if the world of VHS is your thing, the only place you can go is Video Tasties. Hosted by Gareth, this show brings you everything. Live watch-along parties with special guests, deep dives, behind-the-scenes footage, and of course, a look at his fabulous VHS collection. For these and all the other members of the You Run Podcast Network, head over to yourunpodcast.com, your home of entertainment. So make sure you go to yourunpodcast.com. There are now 19 members. We've just added a brand new member to the network as well. There are so many shows there, TV, film, gaming, professional wrestling, like you name it, true crime, paranormal. We've got absolutely everything. Also on our website, you'll find links to our shop, links to all of our socials, links to Mark, which I put in last week. So there's a link right at the bottom, little picture of Mark's logo. If you click on that, it takes you straight to his Instagram page, at Reviews from the Crypt. Make sure you follow him. We have no facts this week. And the reason for that is we are joined by the director of this movie. And I thought instead of us telling you what we found out online, we'll just let Joe do all of that. So welcome to the show, Joe Lam. Joe, thank you very much for joining us for this episode. I'm delighted that you could spare the time, and apologies for cancelling on you previously.
It's all good, Scott. I'm just glad your ear is back together in one piece.
Yeah, that is. I'm kind of I'm stitched up and patched up, and back to some sort of normality now. I want to kick this off. There's one question that's been burning on my mind since we got to see the screener, and that is, how did it come about that you managed to land a horror? He is now a horror icon in Bill Mosley for your first directorial debut. That is a huge coup. I need to know the story behind that.
Well, he was my top 3 choice. And I think it comes down to how fun the script was for him, and the story and the character that he was diving into. Because literally, like, we sent his management team the offer, the screenplay, and he told me literally within 3 hours after reading it, I mean, he said yes.
Wow.
That was it. Yeah,
I think
that's
impressive.
Yeah, and I think he saw my short film as well. I did a short film. It's my last one. It won 56 awards, and I put a lot of money and energy into it. It was a $45,000 short film, so I think.
Sorry to interrupt. What is the title of that film? Because I'm sure our audience will be curious to know. Because I haven't seen it either, so I'll definitely have to check that out.
Fugitive Zero. So
right. And is that available anywhere?
Yeah, you go to fugitivezero.com.
Brilliant.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's because, I mean, horror is right up his alley, right?
Yeah.
And to play a character like this, he actually said there were some things in there that he had never done before. in a horror film. So I thought, okay, that's great. And I'm not going to say what it is because it would spoil it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I love the Maddox character. So the Maddox, we've all of us been in a position where we've gone to meet our girlfriend's father, not necessarily in this scenario, but he is the absolute worst you could possibly imagine that person to be. He's so strict and so difficult, and like all of those scenes make me feel incredibly uncomfortable, but I also find myself laughing through them because I find it very relatable to when I've met girlfriend's parents, and I'm now a dad now with a daughter, and I aspire to be like Maddox.
Yeah, he's old school. You know,
yeah.
you coming from Vietnam vet, and seeing what he's seen in wars and the discipline, but then he sees this kind of like boy that's trying to be with his daughter, but is not fully committed. It's like, what are you doing? Like, you're not a real man. That's kind of the sense that he's given off. It's like he's not good enough yet. So.
No, he's a modern day man meeting an old school fellow. You can understand how the conversation is going to unfold easily. I mean, when you write characters like this, where does the inspiration come from? Is it drawn from personal experiences or?
Well, I was looking at also the generational differences. We got the baby boomers and Gen Z millennials, and the younger characters fall within I guess like the higher end of Gen Z, lower end of millennials.
Yeah.
And it's fun to see that clash, that difference of how generations behave, So, and one generation is not accepting of the other one. And it's like trying to exert their influence. Maddox is exerting his influence on this guy, Chris, who's, doesn't see as a man yet.
Yeah. And Chris is a bad dude. Like I'm not going to give away, obviously, the full arc that he has, but at the start of this movie, I don't think I've ever hated a character as much as I hated Chris, and it all stems around the line, "Can I get you an Uber?" And I didn't know what to say.
He's the worst, man.
I didn't know that would be the thing. I thought it would be, what he's doing on his phone would be the thing for you. Wow.
No, it was more the fact that he was doing that on his phone, which is terrible. But it was more the fact that he was doing that, and he just genuinely didn't care enough to even commit any time. He's like, "I'll just get you an Uber. Just kind of go away and deal with it." I was like, oh,
he just wanted rid of the situation, and it's the most uncomfortable thing to watch.
Well, it's good to know. I appreciate the feedback,
How did you find like practical effects work on this? Because there's a lot of practical in this, and there's a lot of like shots, like even the image behind us is you holding up some of the practical work. Did you get very hands-on with that? Because I know you had obviously your effects team, but you see every photo I've seen, you're holding something or doing something on the practical side of things as well.
Oh, it's honestly, it's not all me. Because there were times where, like what you put up here, the green screen shot, me holding that creature, it's because our puppeteers were already done when we filmed on location in Pennsylvania. And so I did have help with another person who's experienced as a puppeteer here, but I also felt that I had enough work with the creatures and the mechatronics that certain shots would be better for me to handle because I'm looking at a monitor as well. So that's kind of why you see me working at some of these shots. And not only that, there are certain behind the scenes photos that we will not release because it would just give too much away.
Yeah.
And those are the ones that have the puppeteers that came from Mexico who specialize in it. Yeah. But most of the work is from them. I only did a little bit of puppeteering.
Yeah, because your film is due for release, so the film is in theatres on the 7th. In select theatres, you can go to thefetus.com and get tickets for those. What's your plan with release after that? Is this coming to streaming? Are we all going to get to see it? Are we getting a wider cinematic release?
Yeah, it's actually the fetusfilm.com. That's where they can go.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Fetus Film. Well, if it does well in this 1 week run, and it's mostly in Michigan right now, we're working to get it into, we were pending for a couple other cities and states like Texas and Tennessee, but the theaters, it's very difficult dealing with theater chains. Even some of the smaller theater chains as well, where they say, yeah, we're going to put you in, but then they keep waiting. And we're like, okay. And so the fallback is if anyone has bought a ticket and it's not screening in their area, then you will still get a digital copy 1 month after the theatrical release. We have to have that window to protect theaters. They're not going to show our film. But we would love it for the film to sell out for this 1 week, and then we could expand into more theaters because we would show the revenue to other theaters. But we're competing with a lot of multi-million-dollar movies. Like literally the lineup of our film with all the other movies, they're all multi-million-dollar movies, and you're talking the 5 million to 100 million, and we're in there, which is,
it's an achievement. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, thankfully this one theater chain, MJR, is provided us the slot, but it is tough to get butts in the seats. So
yeah, and
the next step, obviously, for you after that is streaming services. And how is that handled from a behind the scenes perspective? Like, do you have to approach individual services and showcase your movie and be like, we'd love for you to buy this? Or how does that work for you to get it to that next step so people can watch this at home in a way through streaming rather than actually going to the website or things like that? Because obviously streaming services is a big advertising campaign as well, because it just randomly pops up in people's watch lists and things like that. So surely that would be a big choice for you if that's the case.
Yeah, because usually there's a life cycle of film. So first it's theatrical, and then it goes to like transactional, which is like people just paying to rent or buy it. And then after that, it's streaming, or there's advertising as well. And so there's different life cycles. So we're just following the same life cycle. Streaming, it's going to depend on what's being offered and the timing as well. Because right now because we're selling it, we're going to be selling it digitally on our website. We offer a whole bunch of bonuses as well. Which you would not get if you're doing streaming. You just watch the film and that's it. But I'm all about adding as much value as possible in terms of physical products, digital products. So that's why we have, even a giveaway that we're doing, and it's going to run until April 8th. So it's not going to run forever. So if people want to get tickets, they can.
Yeah, and I was going to say, one of the things I find very cool about your movie in particular is you have a very 80s approach, not just in the style of the, like your style of your movie feels very much like watching an 80s B movie, something like along the lines of Basket Case. Like that's the vibe the movie gets. But all of your promotion and the materials you send out and all of the competitions and the stuff you do on your website, it feels very much like that time period of horror again. I get that, like a full 80s vibe across the board, not just the film, but the promotion and everything you do. I'm assuming the 80s is a big inspiration to you as a filmmaker.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up the 80s and 90s, and those were the films that, affected me, especially when you watch things at a young age. Nightmare on Elm Street, The Thing, and all those kinds of, films that had the real tactile practical effects. This is before CGI. And I pretty much mandated. I said, we are doing practical effects all the way, and actual set designs. We would only use VFX to enhance here and there. And you'd be surprised the number of visual effects we have in our film. But again, it's to enhance, or it's to fix little things that would normally take people out of the movie. I'm very meticulous about not wanting to interrupt the experience when there's something that's not right in the frame or in the scene. So there are things that me and my team fixed that would just make it a smoother viewing experience. But yeah, going back to what you're saying, the 80s style, yeah, absolutely. There's just something tactile about those films back then that is not so polished nowadays, and it's a little bit more, more wild and crazy and zany. Like I said, Nightmare on Elm Street. It's such a wild concept, and the things that they do in there, it's just shocking. So whenever I watch it, I'm locked in, and I'm on this roller coaster ride with these characters, and that's the experience I wanted to create for audiences with The Fetus, that roller coaster ride.
Yeah, and you picked a subject matter that people tend to avoid, and the subject matter you picked with sort of parental rights and who makes the decision when there's an unwanted pregnancy, like that's very prevalent in the movie, and that's a difficult conversation to tackle, especially it's a big thing in news, it's a big thing in the real world. What made you go down that route? Because that's a very difficult subject to navigate.
It is. It's interesting that you bring that up, because it's a very sensitive, topical. It tears people apart, it tears families apart, depending on your views on it. But I felt that it's something that I wanted to bring about in a film for that exact reason, and to present both sides of it in a way that both sides can watch it and they can come to perhaps an understanding or a dialogue between each other to help kind of, facilitate the healing of our nation right now. Because, one side thinks that they're right about it, the other side thinks that they're right about it. How do we come together? Like we can't just be separated in this way. And it's unhealthy. But the way I did it in the film was in a way that it's not exactly that topic. It's because the fetus creature is half human, half demonic.
Yeah.
And so technically, nobody would want this inside of them. But at the same time, with the right parentage, even though it's coming out killing people, right, there's a chance for this thing to be good. But it's with the right couple involved. And that's where their healing has to grow and evolve, and see if they're up for the challenge. And that's the moral dilemma of the story, really.
Yeah, and I like the fact you went down that subject. It's a really difficult subject to tackle. And yeah, you've done it in a way that you didn't pick a side, which when you watch most movies that tackle this, they very much land on one side of the fence and tell it from that perspective.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, Scott, there's, certain cast or crew members that, I believe that they wanted the film to be a specific viewpoint, to, send us a particular message out into the world. And I was not really on board with that, because you can just alienate the people who have the chance to watch the film and experience it in their own way. Honestly, I've seen movie trailers and documentaries that it's talking about a specific subject that they want to expose or influence into the world. But then the filmmakers do something that is attacking the other side, and then it just ruins it. And then nobody really watches it then, because it's just, it's very preachy, or it's kind of done in a nasty way.
See, that's the thing. One thing that I noticed as well is that you kind of expect this to unfold from Laura Lavera's character and her to be that kind of final girl sort of aspect that you get going throughout the story. But she makes some incredible bad choices throughout this film, some infuriating choices, to the point where you kind of back and forth between her and, I apologize, I forget the lead characters, the male side of it. Yeah, and you forget, because these points where you're like, I hate Chris. And then there's points where Laura Lavera's character makes some mistakes, and you're like, actually, no, I kind of agree with Chris. And you constantly have this back and forth, and there's no through point on which one you're supposed to side with throughout, which is a traditional sort of approach from most of these kind of horror flicks that you would get. And so it's interesting to know that that was a choice you decided to make from the off, so that you didn't fall into those, not tropes necessarily, but sort of generic viewpoints throughout the film.
Yeah, Mark, that's interesting you point that out, because this is not a story with just straightforward characters that know exactly what they want from beginning to end. This is not a James Bond character that says, I'm on a mission, I'm going to fulfill my mission, and nothing's going to get in the way of that. This is not it. This is something where it's like, this unusual thing is introduced into our lives. We have to decide what to do with it.
Yeah.
I mean,
and that's it. And it's that constant unbalance throughout, where you think one moment you're siding with Laura Lavera's character, then you're on like Bill Mosley's side, even though 5 minutes prior he was like the worst character in the film. And then again with Chris, you're like, you've been a dickhead for the past 45 minutes, but all of a sudden I'm kind of starting to appreciate where you're coming from. And it's so back and forth with who you're supposed to seek alliance with, whereas usually in a film like this, it's you're introduced to this final girl and that's the mission you're on with from start to finish, whereas this doesn't do that. And it took me a while to adjust to that, I'll be honest with you. When I first started coming into the film and some of the decisions that she made as a character, I was like, that seems kind of different. Where's this going to go?
Well, if you think about it, she's being influenced by, she has her human side, but then she's realizing there's another side to her.
Yeah.
And, so she's discovering parts of herself she never knew existed too.
We've had some questions in from our listeners, which I want to share with you and let you answer them as well, because I wanted to give them the opportunity to ask you questions directly. So let's bring up the first one. So Dave B Movies wants to know what or who inspired you to become a filmmaker?
There's one movie, Citizen Kane.
Oh, great.
It's a movie that my English teacher showed in class. I was 16. And before then, I just thought movies just happened. I didn't know there was an artistry behind it. I thought it was just a product that's just gets spit out, like, I don't know, toothpaste or something like that. But he broke the mold in so many different ways with moving the camera, using sound, lighting, and blending of effects, that I saw behind the story that there was just this magic behind it. And I thought, wow, I'd love to do that. I mean, little did I know it, it was like over 25-year journey before I could make my first movie, which is here we are now. That was when I was 16. So, but was it all worth it? The feedback that I get from you guys and so many others who've seen the early screenings of The Fetus, I say yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's like the feedback is something that's really important to all filmmakers, and I think people forget that there's so many, and you've come across this as well. There's so many disingenuous people online who will say negative things just to get views and likes, or they'll say positive things for exactly the same reason. And getting genuine feedback is something that, as a filmmaker, as a podcaster, is super important, because it makes us better next time. Yeah, completely agree. And honestly, regarding the feedback that you're talking about, we went through 4 test screenings with the audiences along the way to shaping this story. And we even found out that, the ending is not good enough. So I had to go back, I had to raise more money, go back to Pennsylvania to film an extra 3 days. So what you see, the climax, that was an add-on that was filmed 2 years later. Oh, wow.
Wow. How difficult was that then to get cast members back? Like, obviously, Laura Lavera, she's gone on to great success from Terrifier and all the rest of it. Bill Mosley, I'm sure, is a very high-demand actor. To then approach them again 2 years later and say, "Hi guys, can you come back and just do additional bits for me?" Is that a difficult process for you to achieve?
It's extremely difficult. And I will tell you, not everybody came back.
Oh, okay.
But with the magic of movies, nobody ever notices.
No, well, I couldn't tell you now who I felt was missing from those final scenes, if at all.
We've got some more questions from our listeners. So we've got Under the Floorboards podcast. What do you think makes this film feel familiar to the horror community? And this is something I said earlier, like this feels very familiar to me. What do you think it is that makes that familiarity there?
Specifically to the horror community, I would say the number one thing is the practical effects. Second would be characters that people want to follow. And so I designed the story in a way that you would want to either love or hate them and see them grow as a result. And that's why we actually have a lot of people who have watched it more than once. People who've watched it over a dozen times. It's shocking to me, but it has that rewatchability because of the way it's designed. It's like going on a fun roller coaster ride. You want to go on it again and again and again. Whereas a lot of movies that I see nowadays, sometimes I can't even finish the movie. I'll be in 5 minutes and I have to turn it off. It's unfortunate. And I feel starved for good storytelling nowadays. And that's why I put so much energy and effort into this, along with our entire cast and crew. Over 100 professionals worked on this. It is a low budget, but because of that, it took 4 years from the very beginning of writing it until now to get this thing out there.
Yeah, and it's like, I get what you're saying about movies that you just turn off, and me and Mark talk about them all the time. We refer to them as cookie cutter horror movies. They just follow the standard tropes, the standard beats. We have music into a jump scare, then we have a lull, then we have music into a jump scare, then we have another lull, then we have the finale where we kill the bad guy, everyone's okay, we all have a hug, the end. Like, those movies do nothing for me. So when I watch something like your film that's got a bit of depth in a different direction, and it's not your standard cookie cutter, it does sit with me better. We have got one more question. We've got one question in from Dewey Podmonster. Lauren Lavera, in my opinion, has become one of the most underrated stars in horror film as a whole. What was it like working with her on set?
Loud. No, I'm just kidding. When I say loud, I mean she's got some scenes that she's just screaming her head off. But that's part of the fun of it. Having an actor who can just express a wide range of emotions and vocal ranges and behaviors and personality quirks and all these things. It's an incredible range. And I honestly didn't give her too much direction. I just let her and the other actors run with it, because I would tell them, like, I'm more like the way Clint Eastwood or Christopher Nolan directs. They're more technical and like deal with the camera and set the environment and allow the actors to take over the characters. So I literally told Lauren and the other actors, I said, I wrote these characters, but you have to take them on. I am passing the baton over to you. It's yours now. So whatever you do on camera, you're going to have to live with. I will only step in and let you know if I feel you're going too far off the camera, off the character, of the core of the character. And as a result, that means each actor would take ownership. And I found that approach. I found it to be far more powerful than me directing them. And I'll give you an example of how I used to direct, where you have two actors talking to each other, and then I come in, right? I'm the third person, like, hey, you should do like this. So, hey, well, you should do like that. Well, then they talk to each other again, but they're kind of side-eyeing me thinking like, am I doing the right thing for Joe? Versus I let them alone, and these actors are just like, I'm doing what I feel is best for me. Because how annoying would it be for you guys, Scott and Mark, if you're having a conversation and a third person comes in and says, no, say it this way and say it that way.
Oh, yeah, there's a slim chance of that happening on our show.
That would definitely not work for me.
Yeah, you'd be pretty annoyed, right? You're just like, no, I feel like I should say it this way, but you're telling me to say it your way. Like, who are you listening to now? You're not listening to yourself then.
Yeah. No, I get that. I think that's a really unique approach to have with your actors. And I think that's one of the things that really stood out to me the most is the performances alone in this film are incredible. And I don't know whether that's because I'm so used to seeing Lauren in such a specific role, because I haven't seen her in much other stuff, but seeing the range that she brings to her performance in this film really stood out to me. I thought she was incredible, and it was so refreshing to see her do something different to what I've known from her before, because I found her to be really, really incredible in this role. She really seems to give it her everything.
Yeah, she's the type of actor that knows how to take information from the screenplay and to hit all the right notes. It's like playing a piano, you know.
Yeah.
And just to make the whole symphony work. And it's a testament to her craft. And she would actually write in a journal all these things about her characters. And she offered, if I wanted to read it, I said, sure, if you like to, show it to me, I'll read it. But she never did. And she just kept it to herself. I know she does that on every movie. But yeah, I mean, and I asked her, how do you do this? How are you pulling this off? How are you screaming at the top of your lungs right now to make this believable? And she said, Joe, it's your writing. That's where it comes from.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's really, really cool. We are going to have to let you go, though, because we have got the rest of the show to get on with. But before you go, can you please tell everyone how they can support the movie, how they can support you, how they can get in a copy of the movie, how they can watch it? Sell your heart out for the Fetus.
Well, if you're looking for something that's fresh, original, that has a meaningful story in it, and is like a roller coaster ride of emotions, then please support our film. You buy a ticket, and if it's not playing in your area, you will get a digital copy of it 1 month after it releases from theaters. You go to thefetusfilm.com, where you can follow us on any of our socials, which is The Fetus Film on Facebook, Twitter, or X, whatever you call that, Instagram, and TikTok. And right now, we are offering a special of 3 bonuses. There's a $25,000 grand prize giveaway. It's a free entry that you get for buying a ticket. It's only $15. And you have the chance to be flown, you and a friend, to the actual cabin location where we filmed The Fetus. You get a $2,000 debit card spending spree for whatever you want for that weekend. You also get the creature prosthetics actually designed by our 2-time award-winning special effects makeup artist, various sizes of this creature with all the mechatronics mechanisms.
That's awesome.
You get the wardrobe worn by Lauren Lavera herself in the movie. You get prosthetic of a arm that was severed in the movie. And you also get a whole bunch of merch, signed posters, signed condom boxes. And then the second gift in this is you get a whole digital bundle, because I'm writing a book about the making of this movie. There's also a visual photo book as a part of it, storyboards, screenplays, and also a 60-minute documentary. And we've already interviewed over a dozen cast and crew members that is going to be a part of this digital bundle. And number 3 is you will get a mailed postcard delivered to your home with an image of Lauren Lavera, a still frame from the movie. And I may or may not sign it, but we'll see.
Awesome. I actually do own a pack of the condoms. I remember when you first started producing this early on and you were advertising it, and I reached out to you a couple of times. I was like, I'd love to check out the film. And you kindly enough sent me a pack of the Fetus condoms. I do have them somewhere on the shelf, but it would take me a while to find them, but they are awesome and it's great. Oh, there you go. Scott's got them as well.
They are there, signed as well.
Yep.
Joe, thank you again for joining us. We're going to finish off the episode now. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, I just want to say one last thing. Thank you guys for what you do, because your support for exposing and promoting indie filmmakers is massive. We don't have the big marketing budgets like the studios. So for what you guys do, I really, really appreciate it. So thank you.
No, you're more than welcome. And me and Mark have said this hundreds of times on the show. Independent horror is the lifeblood of the horror genre. It always has been, going back to John Carpenter's Halloween being an independent movie through to now. It's independent film that drives the genre forward. Without it, we just get generic cookie cutter movies that we complained about 5 minutes ago. So thank you for making the movie.
Yeah, you're welcome.
A huge thank you again to Joe for coming on and talking so openly and honestly. And like, he's such a nice guy. The fact he checked on me after my fall. So when we had this schedule, I had to cancel because it was the day I had my fall. We were going to interview Joe. And I sent him like this garbled message from a hospital bed, like drugged out of my eyeballs on painkillers, like, can't do tonight, had fall. That was basically it. And then like the following day, when I was a little bit more coherent, I was going to message him back. And I went on my email and I had a message from Joe going, look, are you okay? Like, I've seen some of the stuff you put on Instagram this morning. Like, take as much time as you need. Just let me know when and I'll be available. Like, super nice guy.
Yeah, really, really sweet dude, man. He was open and honest, and yeah, I like the guy a lot. I think he's incredible.
Yeah, I do. We put caption this out this week, but before we do that, it is time for Mark's recommended account.
Sure.
And is he ready?
I am ready, somewhat. This week's recommended account is Roro Muffins on Instagram. I do a little bit of doom scrolling, probably more than I like to do, especially on a dinner time at work. I just find myself, there is so much stuff I could do on a dinner time at work. That's when I used to spend most of my time writing reviews and stuff. But these days, life's hectic, 2 children at home. Doom scrolling seems like the safer option for me on a dinner time. And I stumbled across his account, which is really, really cool. And since the thing is, I found this account like a few weeks ago, and I have like a banked sort of folder in my phone for recommended accounts of the week that I'm going to showcase each week. And I was like, I'll use that one in a few weeks' time. But since finding it, this account has just blown up massively to the point where I think the trajectory of it's going to get even bigger. So I'm just telling you now that I found it first, and I didn't want to leave it too late. This is a girl called Rose, just your standard typical girl, not in an insulting way. She's just an everyday person, but she's never seen certain movies, and she hasn't done this prior. She started this with Star Wars. She's like, I'm going to watch all of the Star Wars movies. I've never seen them. And she documents her viewing experience of the Star Wars movies. I'm not a big Star Wars fan. I can appreciate how great those movies are, especially the first 3 chapters, 4, 5, and 6. And she watches them, and she basically documents her reaction to the grand reveals of the movies and everything like that. And she started with episode 4, and she's working her way through every single Star Wars movies. If she's listening, please, please, please do something after this. Do Harry Potter, do Lord of the Rings, pick another mega franchise, document your reactions as you go through and you watch it, because this is one of the most wholesome things I have found on Instagram, watching this young lady work her way through the Star Wars movies, discovering that Darth Vader is Luke's dad, discovering that Princess Leia is... I mean, come on. I mean, I'm surprised she has made it through her life without getting these kind of spoilers, but it's one of the most wholesome things I've ever seen on the internet, and it's genuinely entertaining. So please go and follow her. Her name is Rose, and you can find her Roro Muffins, which is RORO Muffins on Instagram. you could lose yourself in hours. I think at the time of this recording, she's just got onto episode 1, The Phantom Menace, which is what she released today. And watching her talk about Darth Maul is one of the greatest things I've ever seen. So please go and check it out. And as always, drop in the comments, let her know that the You podcast sent you there.
Okay, that's awesome. I need to check that out because I am a massive Star Wars
Yeah, you
fan.
will love this, mate. You will. Some of the names she comes up with for certain characters before their names are revealed are absolutely excellent.
I'll be honest, if there's one franchise I could go back and see for the very first time again, it would be Star Wars. Like the reveal of Darth Vader being Luke's dad. I was like, I remember just my head just going,
yeah.
shit.
I mean, her hatred for him throughout those first 3, and then when he saves Luke at the end, it's just like her face and her reaction to it all is just mind-blowing. But me as well, not being a massive Star Wars fan, or at least thinking I'm not a massive Star Wars fan, just watching these reels, I'm like, I should probably go back and watch Star Wars.
Yeah, I recently rewatched 4, 5, and 6 with Jack, and we're going to be doing 1, 2, and 3, and then we may skim over the latest trilogy. I don't know yet.
The thing is as well, it's so diluted now as well, isn't it? It's so many TV shows and spin-offs, and it's becoming like a Marvel thing now.
Some of the spin-offs are great, like Skeleton Crew I really liked. I really liked The Mandalorian, but then there's other stuff.
Mandalorian's got a good reputation.
Yeah, but there's other stuff you're like, oh. And some of the spin-off movies are great. Like Rogue One is arguably one of the best Star Wars movies ever made.
I've actually seen Rogue One. I do like that one quite a lot. And that's only because I like Phantom Menace. I think Phantom Menace is fantastic. And I also I don't like the second one, which is Clone Wars, but I like the one after that. Is it?
Yeah, where you get
Revenge
Darth
of Sith.
Yeah, Anakin and
Anakin and Obi-Wan having that thing. That's fucking cool, man. I like that. Yeah, that's really. I think the prequel trilogy gets a lot more hate than it deserves.
Yeah, like when it first was released, everyone hated it with a passion. But now it's like, actually, no, it's pretty good, and you all come
around pretty good
in the end. Caption this for this week. So we gave you this image, which it is a cool image. A picture of Bill Mosley restraining anyone makes me smile. You did not disappoint. Video Tasties. This is Gareth, a member of the You Run Podcast Network. Everyone's reaction to Scott's threesome story.
I thought we'd put that to bed, man. I thought we were done with that shit.
So did I, till I put caption this out, and that's where everyone's head went. Chaz Presley, another really cool filmmaker, great account. Mark's reaction when Scott sees figures of sexual stories triples listeners.
Clearly, it's not being put to bed at all.
Nate Mayer, who's a writer, I love this one. Trust me, I wasn't into it at first either.
Oh.
Skellington fan, again, super cool account, friend of this show since the dawn of time. Just went with Freebird playing in the background.
Oh, lovely. Lovely. I love that song.
And finally, Dissect That Film Pod come with the deepest film reference cut I have ever seen on anything we've ever done on this show. Watching the end of Toy Story 3, because that's exactly what Buzz and Woody do as they're going down into the fire pit. It's exactly that, just with Buzz and Woody.
Oh man, Toy Story 3 is fucking nightmare fuel.
Honestly,
the ending of Toy Story 3 is the most fucking sadistic thing to ever come from Disney.
I'll be honest, the first time I watched it, and I watched it with my young kids, I'm watching it going, are they actually going to kill them? Because I genuinely cannot see a way out at this moment in time.
No, man, it was horrible. It was horrible. And these are characters that we'd grown up with throughout our childhood. I think the first one came out in 96, I think, Toy Story 1.
Yeah.
We've grown with Toy Story. To see them meet the demise in such a horrific way, which, again, there is no way out of, is horrifying. I genuinely thought, because there was like talks of Toy Story 3 being the last ever one. I was like, shit, man, they're going to furnish them all.
Yeah. How dark would that be? The end. Brought to you by Disney.
I feel like we would have been able to cover Toy Story 3 on this show if they had have done that.
I agree. We promised the other day we'd had loads of Spotify comments, but you all wanted the threesome story. So we're going back to our Spotify comments now. Ad Ghoul, this is on the back of Halloween 4 versus Resurrection. I think this has been my favourite episode for a long while. This was the correct result for me.
Of course.
After Charles Play 3, Dave B. I love this one. I love army camping. Like the camp idea, possibly because I love the style of a war film in a camp and then war. Great show, guys. And then after Freddy's Dead, Chaz Presley come with Welcome to Late Night Romance Stories with Dr. Scott. Holy arse cheeks, Batman. Anyone who hasn't listened to that episode yet, go back and give Freddy's Dead a listen. Hear my threesome story because it's the most messages I've ever received after an episode. I received a lot. And finally, we've got Becky. She went with this was after last week. This was after Pet Sematary.
Pet Sematary.
Yeah, great episode. As a dog groomer, listening at work, the cat screams were not appreciated. Kept making the dogs move. So
see, that's weird. So Becky's like actually a dog groomer, but she is a cat person.
Yeah.
Is she doing a whole Dexter shit at that fucking puppy clinic? What's she up to? What are you doing, Beck?
A monster.
Randomly euthanizing dogs when they come in for a haircut.
Oh man, that's some wild allegations flying around there.
Hey, I stand by them.
We have a game this week to give you an idea of what that game is.
This game show is cheap. These lights are cheap. The host is cheap. Your smile is cheap. The questions are cheap.
What the fuck is that from?
I'm not going to lie. This week's it's very difficult to theme something around this movie. We try and theme games to it, and it's very, very difficult. So I come up with an idea that's called Surviving Scorpion Pussy.
Of course you did. Of course you did.
So I'm going to give you 3 categories, and in each 3 categories, you've got 5 options. They cost money. You have £10 to spend, and you need to equip yourself to surviving the fetus creature because it is actually very well equipped for taking people down.
Right.
So your first round is clothing. Remember, you've got £10. So for £5, you can have a suit of armor. £4, you can have riot gear. £3, jeans and a jacket. £2, shorts and a t-shirt. Or for £1, you can go it naked.
I'll take jeans and a jacket. That's more of a stylistic choice than it is actually a survival choice.
Okay, so you've got £7 left and 2 rounds. So you're going jeans and a jacket. Second round is weaponry. For £5, you can have a samurai sword. For £4, you can have a sledgehammer. For £3, you can have a baseball bat. For £2, you can have a spear. Or for £1, you can have a bow and arrow.
Okay, so clearly the only one that's actually going to work is the samurai sword. I am not swinging a sledgehammer fast enough to fucking wipe out Scorpio's claw. And I don't think a baseball bat's going to be good enough either. The only thing that's going to take it out is by actually cutting it off.
Yeah,
so it needs to be a knife. I thought you were going to downgrade sort of like the knife element because I feel like even if it got me in the neck straight away, just a penknife would be suffice there and then. A machete, even that for a basic couple of quid would have done the job, but you're making me splash out the full £5 because I'm going to have to go with the samurai sword on this one.
You could go with the bow and arrow and just pin it to a tree.
I do not have that level of accuracy, and you know it.
Come on, Legolas. Surely you do.
I aspire to. Maybe I should take up archery classes. I would really enjoy that.
Final round. This is mode of transportation. You have £2 left. So if you'd saved some money, for £5, you could have had a tank. For £4, you could have had a van. For £3, you could have had a car. Now, for £1, you can go out on foot in your jean jacket with your samurai.
Why am I paying £1 for my fucking own foot transportation?
Or for £2, you can have a tandem push bike.
I think I can outrun a pregnant lady, so I will pay £1 and save myself £1 for ice cream.
after you've severed the
I don't even feel like I'd need to. I feel like jeans, jackets, and running gear, I'd be off. I don't think I would get caught in this situation.
And that is our terrible game this week. I'm going to let you give your roundup on this one first before I dive into mine. So, where are you?
It's a difficult one this week because we've had such an incredible director come on who speaks so passionately about a movie that he's worked so tirelessly on. And I have nothing but admiration for him and respect for him for what he's achieved with this film. I think it's incredible. There is a lot of first-time directors who do not achieve anywhere near the same sort of level of quality as what Joe Lam has with this first attempt. Not only bringing in such a stellar cast who all I think are fantastic, Bill Mosley, Lauren Lavera, and Fuckboy. I do apologize, Fuckboy. I haven't seen you in enough to remember your name off the top of my head after a couple of beers. I think all of them are fantastic. I think they all have a really strong connection and work really, really well together throughout the course of this movie. I think one of the biggest draws for me is Lauren Lavera, is coming off the back of her Terrifier fame, seeing her in such a different role for what I'm used to, and showcasing the amazing talent that she does throughout this film. She has such an incredible range, and she really gets the opportunity to showcase that here and sort of bring something different to her skill set that not a lot of people are going to have seen from what they're used to. You know, you think you know her from Terrifier. I would recommend you watch this movie based solely alone on her performance, because I think she delivers a fantastic, fantastic performance here, and really showcases that she deserves a similar sort of title to the Samara Weaving fan club of horror. I think she has that going for her, given the right opportunities. So I think that alone, go and watch this movie. I think Joe Lam is an incredible director. I think he's got a really, really keen eye for his shots, his cinematography, the way he places himself within this world and represents that to the audience on screen. But as I've always said, time and time again, horror is a very subjective genre. You all know me. You've listened to this show long enough. I'm not a big possession guy. I'm not a big demonic guy. I like my slashers, and I like my basic bitch stuff. This movie's not for me. And that's not because it's a bad movie. It's just this isn't my wheelhouse. This isn't my genre. This isn't my sort of field of enjoyment. And that's not to say that it's a bad movie. I couldn't get on board with some of the character decisions that were made. There were some wonky levels of CGI. And I know we spoke about this on the director interview with Joe Lam and how he was insistent on practical effects, which he clearly showcases in various elements throughout this film. But his decision to showcase his CGI, which I don't think was necessary, and he said he was just touching up elements that sort of felt like it needed it because practical effects weren't good enough. For me, I would have rather have seen a raw practical effect than the terrible CGI that was used within this movie. Character decisions that were made throughout. Again, in the interview, Joe, he explained those to me, because there was elements to him where I was like, I don't get this. Why is she making that decision? She's our final girl. She's the one we're supposed to follow. She's making such terrible decisions, and now we're following him, and he's a dick, and he's not got no glorifying aspects to him. And that was one of the biggest things for me coming in that I hated so much about this movie, until we had the opportunity to speak to Joe himself, and he told me that that was intentional. And as the conversation unfolded between the two of us, I kind of had my 10 pence worth and said, like, yeah, I get it now. And yeah, that's really cool. And it is a unique perspective, and it does create that level of engagement that I wasn't expecting. But I didn't get that my first initial watch. in hindsight now, going back and watching it again, I would probably see that and I would probably be more invested in it. But it didn't come across the first time. To me, it just came across as poor writing, which I know wasn't the case, and that's down to a personal thing and not a creative thing. And I don't want to take that away from Joe, because my job here is to dissect movies from a personal perspective. It's to tell you how I feel about a movie, not necessarily tell you how you should feel about a movie.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'd be disingenuous to myself just because Joe came on the show to glorify certain elements that didn't work for me. So for me, I felt there was some elements of the writing that weren't as good as I would have hoped they would have been. But again, that could be a me thing and not necessarily a writing thing. The CGI thing was something that really stood out to me as being a bad factor. Didn't think it needed to be there. But again, I've never made an independent movie. I don't know how difficult it is to do this. I don't know how difficult it is to execute this. And I mean no disrespect to Joe in the slightest. It's just from a critical standpoint, watching this movie, those were the kind of elements that I felt took me out of the situation, made me take a step back, and I kind of lost my footing with where I was because of how glaringly obvious certain moments like that were. But even then, all that said, all the criticism taken on board, I just want to say that what didn't work for me will probably work for you. You've all listened to this show for many years now, and time again, I have bashed movies that you all love conditionally. And again, I've loved movies that 9 times out of 10, you've come on with certain segments in the show and absolutely destroyed, but I'm still stood here glorifying them because I love them. Not H4, that's a universally loved movie. We all know it. But exactly my point. This horror subjective. This wasn't for me, but I know there will be a big audience out there, and I implore you all to watch it, and I implore you all to support Joe because he's a great guy, and I think doing so, you might discover a horror gem that you are singing from the rooftops the way that I do about certain B movies that I have in my collection that all of you have watched under my recommendation that I think are absolute garbage. So certainly go and check out the Fetus. Certainly go and support Joe. But for me, this just didn't work. It wasn't my cup of tea. And again, that's just my taste in horror, man. That's nothing to do with the movie itself. So I'm going to give this a 2 out of 5.
Okay. And again, like we've done director interviews and all this sort of stuff before, and we're always really honest with our opinions. Like we give constructive criticism. We never bash unwarranted. Like we just say how we feel. For me, I had a blast with this film. Like for a low budget independent film, this worked for me. There are budgetary constraints that you can see, like some of the visual effects, like they do stand out. But I understand that's a budget thing, not a like give Joe another $1 million and like all of those effects would have been polished as fuck. So I get that. The thing that stood out for me in this was some of the character development. So Chris's character, I've never, in all the films I've watched, I've never hated a character as much as I hated Chris. And that goes down to Julian Curtis's great performance as that horrible little fuckboy. But he nails fuckboy so well. Bill Mosley is Bill Mosley. What is there to say about Bill Mosley? He's a gruff, grumpy man who's incredibly aggressive and highly entertaining. And the dynamic between those two characters, I laughed a lot every time they interacted. Like from when you get the right, we're going to kidnap the neighbors, like that point to the awkward moments, and then bits later in the movie that we haven't spoken about. There's some real moments there where it's really cool. Bill Mosley's like, well, you don't really give a fuck. And Chris has this kind of spin around. Well, actually, I fucking do. And this is why. And like that whole dynamic, I think is great. Lauren Lavera in this shows a depth that I've not seen from her before. She's very vulnerable. She's very confused and she's leaning on other people to help her. Whereas in the Terrifier franchise, she's just a bad bitch who kicks the fuck out of Art the Clown. And I liked seeing that. I found pacing good. From a directorial standpoint, I think, as you said, all the shots are done really, really well. I would love to see what Joe Lam could do with a bigger budget. I'd love to see how he would spend that budget to do something else. Like this movie, I found really, really cool. I really enjoyed it. There are elements that I mentioned that are budgetary. There are a couple of storyline elements that didn't quite hit just right for me. But for a feature-length directorial debut, this is fab. I was really pleased with this. Everyone needs to go to thefetusfilm.com, get yourself a digital copy. It's worth seeing. It's a film that is 100% worth seeing. It's going to appeal to a big audience, I think. It's not going to be for everyone, but if this sits in your wheelhouse of demonic possession and pregnancy horror and body horror, and like if that's your wheelhouse, this is 100% up your street. For me, I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5. I want to say a huge thank you to Joe and to the producers of the Fetus film for setting up everything they did with Joe. For Joe coming on and being so willing to work with us and being so open and honest and just generally being a really nice guy. Because you and me have met some real dicks doing this.
Yeah, like, man, yeah.
We're never going to name and shame, but there is a list of people who we've met from the film industry who are fucking bellends. And me and Mark have had long conversations off camera going, they are never coming on our show or anywhere near our show again. And one day we'll leak who some of them are, but there's a couple that afterwards we're like, oh God, why did we do that? But Joe's super cool, really nice guy.
Very cool. Very
really
cool bloke.
Movie.
I wish him nothing but the best success in the world. I think he deserves it. I think, like I say, it's a stellar first effort. You know what I mean? There's a lot to like here. It's just personal preference, man. That's all it is. You know, it's just, it wasn't for me. And I don't want to take anything away from Joe for that reason, because I know there is a vast majority of our listeners who will love this movie. Like, eat this movie up as being one of their cult horror movies of the year, you know? And I think, go check it out, man. It definitely deserves your attention.
Yeah, it really does. We're going to be back next week. We're going back onto our remake cycle. So we're going to talk about another remake, hopefully better than the last one. But until then, don't be a fuckboy. And if the condom breaks, have a conversation like an adult and get over here.
You want to die tonight?
Jokes you tell sets the scene. I hang on every word lost in the screen. Your passion for fear is contagious enough. You make me believe in Mark's overblown roundups. You run podcasts for a movie review, unveiling facts and playing games too. Your words paint pictures of darkness and dread, leaving me grinning long after I fled. You run podcasts, horror movie review, unveiling facts and playing games too.